All right. Hi, my name is Richard,
My name's Josh.
and today we're going to be talking about how Steam is killing console gaming and things similar to Steam.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different ones like Origin and stuff like that. The only ones I really know about, or the ones that I've actually used, are Origin and Steam. Origin being because they gave me a free game, so
Yeah, of
they got me
course.
that pretty well.
Well, just one thing came to mind for me, which destroys both. I think as internet speeds increase anyway, is services like OneLive,
Hmm.
which I know isn't very popular. In fact, most people are like, "What is that?" And the first thing to commercially, well, I mean, I guess that is commercial, but for the public, the PS4 had a sort of cloud gaming to it,
Yeah.
which, if your internet can handle it, is quite fantastic because
Hmm.
you could
There,
have terrible hardware that can play a nice game.
there are a bunch of different ones that are good for different things. That's one thing that I would throw into the pot in favor of, playing on PC or different Steam like things. Is that there's literally so many different platforms you can go with a PC as opposed to you can get an Xbox and you go with Microsoft stuff, or you go with PlayStation, you go with Sony stuff, and then you're pretty much stuck with their main platforms. With PC, you literally have a choice of operating system, what you want to put in it, what phrase range you're good for, and then you can go for like what gaming do I want to do, or do I want to do multiple? You can have Origin and Steam and online depending on what you want to do that particular day. There's just not that much diversity when it comes to playing on consoles as there is on PC. So I definitely throw that in there as a plus for PC.
Yeah, and that's yes, usually PCs are bigger, but honestly, you can get a laptop with a screen and all that self contained, and it can have more power than a console.
Mm,
Generally, a laptop that would have more power would cost more, but in terms of a desktop, if you spend $500 on a desktop and or even $400 on a desktop and $400 on a console, you can already have more power out of the box and upgradability for the future.
yep, they're definitely more future proof too. Consoles. No, generally speaking, I'd say they come out with a new console every 5 to 7 years, somewhere in that range. And you're generally good with that console,
For about
but you
10.
could get it, huh?
For about 10 years, usually, is when they'll stop releasing stuff for it.
Yeah, that's when you're good to have it. But I'm saying if you want to get like the newest games, generally you're good for about 5 to 7 years, somewhere in that, somewhere around there at least. But with PCs, you could get a PC that would be good that around there because you can upgrade it when it needs to, and you could keep all your previous things. It's not you have to buy a whole new $600 system. Maybe you buy a $200 new graphics card and you're good for another couple of years if that's what you need because that's your bottleneck on the PC, for example. So there again, diversity is really the biggest killer when it comes to computers because diversity of what you can upgrade and what needs to be upgraded, and also it's more price efficient.
Yeah, and back to the original topic with like Steam, of course, not all games are released on the computer. But with Steam, most of the popular games that are available, you don't even have to go to the store
Mm,
anymore to get them. If you want it, you got it, you download it to your computer, and it's yours. And you don't have to buy another copy of it, and you can play it on your other computer. And with a lot of Steam games, even your saves are synced, across the internet. So I can go hop on my laptop, play a game, and then save and resume it on my desktop.
yep.
And I mean, of course, you can. I mean, I don't know how it is exactly with the console counterpart, but I'm sure there's something similar. But you can't always just go to your friend's house and grab your game and go play.
Hmm. That's another thing as well is if you want to share your games.
DRM.
Yeah, they're very, very, very restrictive, especially with newer consoles, as to how much you can share. with PS3 and Xbox 360, they weren't so restrictive. In fact, you could just sell them on the used market and pretty much you sell them that way. And Xbox and PlayStation would have no way to track that and therefore no way to stop you. But now they track everything on an individual basis. You have to be friends for a month. You can only share at one time, stuff like that. And that's what makes people not want to pay money for those types of things because, well, if I buy a game for the computer, I could share it with as many people as I want because I could just bring my laptop over their house or something like that. But with Xbox, I have to bring my entire Xbox over there, make sure everything works, and then it's just a lot more cumbersome in my opinion.
Yeah, and Ted, with Steam, generally the games are a little cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not in all cases. I think they should be at least $10 cheaper since you're not getting a physical copy of it.
Yeah.
And that reminds me of I have two games. I only remember one that I got a physical disc. I bought it off of Amazon. It was Doom 3 BFG edition. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I pop it in, and it opens Steam, and Steam starts saying installing from disk, and I'm like, I didn't know that they did that. So here I bought a physical disc, and it still installs with Steam. While it didn't download off of the internet, it did install through Steam, and after Steam was done installing it, it downloaded updates for it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, and Steam now runs on Linux as well, and there's a fair bit of titles for it. So it's just growing, and when you can go and spend equivalent amount of money, maybe a little bit more in some cases, on a computer, and have more ability to play Steam games, to play Origin games, on live.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this video is kind of turning into a computers versus console, but I'm trying to keep it as close to the topic as possible. But when you don't even have to leave your house anymore to get a game, I mean, yes, of course, that's laziness, but
It's convenient too. If you have someone that works all the time, they're not going to want to waste 45 minutes to 2 hours driving there, getting the game, waiting in line, driving back, things like that. They're not going to want to waste the time to do that. Now they don't have to. They click the button, wait for the download. 20, 25 minutes later, they're playing it. It's convenient more than laziness, I think, at least in most cases.
yeah. But now, well, I mean, you've been able to do that since the 360, but I mean, you can download games directly to your hard drive, and without having a physical disc as well. So essentially, it is similar to Steam on consoles as well. This is probably just going to end up being a console versus computer video again, but hey, whatever.
It's a wide area subject that kind of encompasses that a little bit, so I don't think we're necessarily going off topic too much.
Yeah.
And it's also important to consider, what about game mods? There's not too many mods for consoles because, again, how restrictive they are. But for PC, it's almost like it's open source, even though it's not, because you own the game and you have the ability to modify it, and people will always do that to every single game. I've seen mods for Tetris before.
Yeah, I mean, whether it's just something as as simple as making the colors different or skinning the character, or something like making whole new levels and changing the way the physics in the game work and things like that. You can't, yes, you can do that on consoles, but it's nowhere near as convenient. You have to do hardware modification in a lot of cases.
Mm-hmm.
And it's generally not the same, because here, let me look up the specs exactly for the console counterparts. Let's see, right here for the Xbox One, CPU wise, is running a custom 1.75 gigahertz 8-core CPU that's made by AMD. And the PS4 is running a similar one at 1.6. Okay, now I know that doesn't seem like a lot, but more cores, depending on what you do, can be beneficial. But they still don't have the amount of power as even generally a mid-range desktop.
Yeah, and as we said before, you're stuck with that console. If you're making a $300 to $600 investment on a console, I'm not honest. Admittedly, I'm not too up to date on how much they cost nowadays. But if you're spending hundreds of dollars on a console and they don't come out with the next one for 5 or 6 years, you're stuck with that hardware for that long. And therefore, the developers for coming out with the games for the new ones are stuck with those specs for that long. And PC again can be upgraded. Your PS3, PS4, Xbox 360, Xbox One, whatever, what have you, you're stuck with that. You can't upgrade anything, and that limits severely how the game is going to play. Your frame rates, how sharp the game looks, things like that. You're stuck with what you have pretty much.
Well, the only thing you can really upgrade, honestly, is the hard drive and accessories, but you can't do anything beyond that. Like, I'm trying to think now. I remember the Nintendo 64 had that RAM expansion. And
Mm-hmm.
while that was a preconceived thing that they knew that they were going to sell extra, that was a hardware upgrade.
Yep.
I believe it was the Sega Genesis. They had like things which I thought they looked like tumors. They had like the 32X that would actually slot into the top and it would give you better games. Then they had the Sega CD, which was also another thing. So those were actually upgrading existing hardware without buying a new console.
Making it future proof, saying if you invest money into this console, you're not going to be screwed when they come out with games that can't play on the older technology because you can just buy this convenient little adapter, plug it in, or upgrade pack or whatever it is. They don't have those for modern games anymore. But
No.
PCs.
And that's just how it is. And yes, in laptops, generally you're not going to do any upgrades other than hard drive or RAM, which obviously that's probably not going to change your gaming performance, but except for load times.
Yeah.
But in terms of raw power, of course, a desktop generally, or a PC for that matter, is generally going to beat out a console counterpart. But you can't beat the convenience of a console. They're very convenient.
Yeah, and that was one of the major selling points. But now with things like Steam PC and Steam machines coming out, that kind of is even going towards Steam because they have, I can't remember exactly the number, but there was a bunch of them that they were testing out. I think it was somewhere along the line of like over a dozen or something like that. Different versions of it and different price ranges, how quiet you wanted it, things like that, how much storage you wanted. Um, and they are even taking over it because there's only one Xbox One, there's only one PS4, there's 20 different Steam PCs, and you can choose the one that you need to do what you need. And I can imagine that they might be able to be upgraded.
Well, the problem still is I don't think you'll ever be able to beat the convenience of a PC of a console because they're designed to be simple. They're designed to buy it, plug it in, make your account, pop your game in, and play.
Yeah.
With a computer, you have to, if you build it yourself, then you have to install your OS and configure it and all that. But if you get it from the store, you have to install Steam or install your games, configure your settings, and then, set a few other things up and then play your game. So
Hmm.
there'll always be that convenience factor in consoles and things like that. But, I mean, I don't see myself in the future, honestly, buying another console unless it was a handheld console. But honestly, the PSP I think was the last good handheld console, because the PSP Go was the same thing, just flash memory. But the PS Vita, that thing flopped, and I think the handheld consoles are dead.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think that if they chose to make ones that were actually decent and had a lot of games for them, and I think the primary killer of mobile gaming was the cell phone, smartphones. You can already have, the best camera that you need on your smartphone, best whatever, ability to talk, ability to play games in your phone. So why are you going to pay for a Nintendo DS? I think that killed it, but that always to me was the biggest seller for consoles is because you're not going to be able to have a handheld Steam PC or handheld, even if it's a laptop, it's not going to be It's simply not going to be as convenient as a console or a hand console even. So those will always beat out, I think, PCs at least to an extent.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, you have things like the Nvidia Shield and stuff like that that can actually stream your gameplay to your handheld. But the problem with that generally is that you have to be on the same Wi-Fi network.
Yeah,
So then it's a bit more of an upfront cost because you have to have a compatible and powerful computer and a network that can maintain.
yeah,
So it's I just like I said, the only thing that I can really see consoles winning in is pure convenience factor, and it that's and it's not even convenient in every way.
yeah. And
It's convenient for setup.
the comparison I like to make with the whole conveniency versus performance is Apple versus Android and Windows people, which I know is like a really tired argument, and I think in fact we've talked about it before in another video, if I'm not mistaken. But I like to make the comparison because Apple products generally are convenient. You pay for it, and you're restricted in what you can do, but they're convenient. They generally work, generally speaking, of course. But Android, if you know what you're doing, you can do damn near anything you want, almost anything. You can have it as a high gaming machine if you wanted to. You could convert your old cell phone into a dedicated gaming machine with like all the Atari games on it or something like that, like maybe just retro games, older games on it. You could use it as just a cell phone and you'll get super high battery life. You could do generally anything you want. With Apple, you're paying more money like consoles and you're restricted in what you're doing like consoles, but they will work as opposed to PC and Android and maybe a little bit of Windows Mobile, um, where you need to know what you're doing, but you can get a little bit more for your money and stuff like that. So again, that comparison, convenience versus performance.
And basically, to sum up the original thing, I think Steam is gonna. I think Steam is gonna be around forever. They're not going anywhere.
At least things like Steam. I mean, I don't see Steam being around for 500 years or anything, but
Well, hey, it's possible, but
yeah, Steam Nation.
and and I think you're always going to have the one side or the other. There's not really. I don't think there's ever going to be a happy median. And personally, I still like to have a physical disc,
Hmm.
but you're not really gonna usually find them unless it's some super awesome game that just everyone has to have. Then you can go to the store and they're like, oh yeah, we have disc copies, but guess what? It's probably still gonna install to Steam.
Hmm.
So anyway, I think that's my final thought. Do you have any?
No, that pretty much sums up what I originally wanted to say too.
All right. Well, I'm gonna end it here then. So until next time.
All right, see you guys later. Make sure to check out the other ones if you're interested.
Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.